Mr. DeMille, do you mind if I say a few words? Thank you. I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again. You don't know how much I've missed all of you. And I promise you I'll never desert you again. Because after Salome, we'll make another picture and another picture. You see, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hi everyone, my name is Abby and I'm doing my presentation on movies. First, let's go over the history of the development of movies. Here I've created a timeline which shows that in the 1870s we see that the medium of film is created. While Thomas Edison is credited with the development of motion picture industry, films would not be where they are today without other participating parties. Annette Jules Marie and Edward Muybridge were the first people to work on the issue of portraying motion by taking photos of people and animals in action. About 15 years later, brothers Auguste Marie and Louis-Jean Lumière worked with Edison's ideas to create cinematography, and then opened the first movie theater in 1895, focusing on films that followed people's everyday lives. In 1915, we see the birth of the first blockbuster with the film The Birth of a Nation, created by D.W. Griffith. While many movies ran only about 20 minutes, he was the first to produce films that ran for an hour or more. Armin White, a critic who reviews for the National Review, stated that it was the building block film, and that there were no extended movie narrative without Griffith. There would be no extended movie narrative without Griffith, sorry. It's a film that showed the world the potential of cinema. And while the film had a huge success that pioneered feature-length films, this movie was quite possibly the most racist film ever made. The Birth of a Nation was released in 1915, and it tells the story of the rise of the Ku Klux Klan in the years following the Civil War. The underlying story of the film is deeply flawed, as the film argues that giving black people rights was a terrible error, and that they would do all sorts of horrible things that they actually didn't do, and that the noble Ku Klux Klan was this wonderful savior that saved America, which couldn't be any more wrong. After this film's great success, Griffith then released another movie entitled Intolerance, which tells 4 separate stories spread out over a period of 2,500 years. While it was an engaging film, it was a financial failure, costing Griffith the entire fortune he had made with the success of The Birth of a Nation. It cost nearly $500,000 to make, which was significantly a lot back then. The film marked a point at which outside financial backing became necessary for a movie to get produced. Outside financing means that directors are accountable to the people who have controlled the purse strings. Few directors today have the right to a final cut or a final version of the movie, and that right is generally reserved by the people who control the money. Although a blockbuster movie can be enormously profitable, a relatively low percentage of movies actually make money. Movies can be financial failures if they make $200 million or even $2 million. It all depends on how much the movie costs to produce and promote. The best known way to make money in the movies is to produce a big budget blockbuster with big stars and a big name director. And outside financing of these films eventually led to the studio system. The studio system is basically a factory-like way of producing films that involves having all of the talent, including the actors and directors, working directly for the movie studios. And the studios had almost total control of the distribution system. An important aspect of the studio system was the production code, which was implemented in 1934 in response to pressure from public protest against the graphic violence and sexual suggestiveness of some films. Alongside this, the code required that evil not be portrayed as alluring and that the villains of these films not go unpunished. Many people voiced their concerns about the effects that movies would have on their younger viewers. In an attempt to protect themselves from criticism, Hollywood limited the content of movies through the production code. However, by the 1960s, many movies were violating the provisions of the production code, and some were even releasing films without the code's approval. And this issue eventually led to the code being replaced with a system of voluntary ratings, indicating the audience for which the movie was most appropriate. Here you see what our rating system looks like today. While these rating systems are in place, one argument that is continuously debated upon is whether movies are to blame for the actions of others. Although movies have intended ratings for their viewers, R-rated films typically depict graphic images. While there is a strong link between younger viewers of these films and their behaviors, adults also fall into this category. I read an article that I have attached in the notes below entitled, "Violence, Who's to Blame? Society Looks at Media and Entertainment Sources." The author of this article states that there is a causal connection between the entertainment, such as violent movies, video games, and recording lyrics, and behavior. Take, for example, the film Natural Born Killers, directed by Oliver Stone. This movie was originally released in 1994. The movie tells the love story and journey of Mickey and Mallory Knox, who go on a murderous rampage after killing Mallory's entire family. This film was dubbed as the most hallucinatory and anarchic picture ever made at a major Hollywood studio, and it was a psychedelic documentary on the American cult of sex, violence, and celebrity. Many people criticized the movie for not punishing the characters in the end for their crimes and allowing them to live a happily ever after. There was a lot of controversy regarding the film, and within the first 8 years of the film being released, 8 copycat crimes of the film were reported. Much of the media blamed Stone for releasing this evil film, as it encouraged others to want to replicate it or become famous like the characters did. There was eventually a lawsuit against Stone and Time Warner from one of the victims of these copycat crimes. According to the suit, the makers of Natural Born Killers were distributing a film that they knew, or should have known, would cause it to inspire people to commit crimes. Author John Brisbane, who was a friend of one of the murder victims, publicly supported the lawsuit. And he stated that there was a direct causal link between the movie and the murders. Therefore, the artist should be required to share responsibility along with the nutcase who pulled the trigger. The lawsuit against Stone was eventually dismissed by a Louisiana judge who stated that the director's work is protected under the First Amendment, adding that the movie creators did not intend for Natural Born Killers to incite any violence in its viewers. While movies have always had a history of dealing with the criticism of displaying risque images, those who create the films have this freedom of speech and typically have no ill intentions to encourage viewers to do what is done in the movie. Do you think that the creators of these films should be held accountable for their actions carried out by the viewers? And if so, to what degree? Another question to think about is, how have these movies impacted us as a society? That's my entire presentation, so thank you so much for watching, and I'd really love to hear all of your thoughts. Bye!